All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for yet another episode here of Knight Brothers Commentary. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Brad. I'm with my brother Matt, and we are going to kind of take another turn today. We've had a couple of episodes. Hope you've been able to check out some of our Marvel MCU topics, whether it be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki. I think those are our most recent episode videos or kind of recaps and deep dives. And we're going to pivot to another, passion of myself and Matt's, which is sports. Diving into some NFL topics this week. So NFLs are, preseason is starting. We're in training camps. Just down the road from here, the Colts are doing their training camp at Grand Park. So pretty exciting stuff. And we wanted to do something that was relevant to, where we were at with current events. So Matt, with that being said, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right. So today what we're going to be talking about is the shared rules between the NFL and the NFDL. And so this is the third episode in our three-part series regarding how I would improve the NFL. So essentially, the shared rules are basically there's going to be a lot of new rules I'm going to cover here. So I'm going to try to get through them as fast as I can.
Yep.
The first one I want to talk about is the bonus point system. And for those who are soccer and rugby fans, you'll understand what I'm talking about. For those who aren't, I'm just going to give like a brief summary. So essentially, bonus points are basically just a way for teams to be ranked more efficiently, in my opinion, as opposed to just using wins and losses to determine who gets into the postseason. You essentially use these points. So the point system that I have is 4 points for a win in regulation, 3 points for a win in overtime, 2 points for a tie, 0 points for a loss, or 1 bonus point for losing by 8 points or in overtime, 1 bonus point for scoring at least 4 touchdowns, regardless of the outcome.
Okay.
And then 1 bonus point for scoring at least 3 more touchdowns than their opponent.
Very nice. And Matt, just to provide some context here, would this be very similar to like the English Premier League style points? Okay. That's kind of what I thought.
I take that back. It's similar to that, but it's actually more similar to rugby's bonus point system.
I'm less familiar with those leagues, as you may know. But.
Yeah. So essentially, kind of building off of this, at the end of the regular season, whichever team has the best regular season record or the highest point total, essentially, would be awarded the Jim Thorpe Trophy for the NFL or the Supporters Shield for the NFDL. So that trophy is basically kind of like what the Premier League is. So instead of having a postseason for them, they basically just take whoever wins the most points out of the regular season and they declare them the champion. So it's essentially doing that here in the NFL as well.
So this would be eliminating the playoffs.
No, this is not eliminating the playoffs.
Okay.
This is essentially helping to seed,
Okay, so there's just an award for the top seed in terms of regular season standings.
Exactly.
And when you say record, you are not talking about wins and losses. This is a point total system.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, wins and loss records still
are
matters.
Tracked.
They're tracked, and they're used to determine the point value.
Yep.
So the points are basically being used instead of just how many wins you have versus how many losses.
Yeah. And the points, what really differentiates it is the ability to earn points even in a loss.
Exactly.
Yep, I get that.
Or add more points for a win.
By a considerable margin, a dominating victory.
Exactly.
Man, I think it's cool. I mean, it's on the surface, it's certainly a more holistic way of determining a team's overall performance, right? Because everybody has different schedules. Yep. Some teams win by 1 point. Some teams blow other teams out. It's hard to capture that in merely wins and losses.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of why I thought bonus points would be a good way to capture that.
I think it's very cool. Yeah.
Now, the next thing I kind of want to talk about would be the overtime format.
Okay. I can't wait to hear this because you said it with a grin. So now you've piqued my interest.
Yeah, so essentially it's basically going to be a combination of the college format and the old actually I shouldn't say the old, I should say the new XFL format, the one prior, like during the pandemic.
The really flash in a pan XFL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not the old one.
Not the He Hate Me XFL.
Yeah, not
Vince
that one.
McMahon. That was awesome.
Yeah, so essentially the first couple of rounds are basically going to revolve more around the college formats.
Okay.
So each team will receive 1 possession per overtime period, but instead of starting at the 25-yard line, you have to start at the 30.
Okay.
Just to make it a little bit harder.
Yep.
So that's basically the main difference.
Yep.
And there's only going to be a max of 3 overtime periods per regular season game.
Okay.
But for the postseason, there's not going to be any limit at all.
So let me ask you this. When you say period, does that equal a possession for each team?
Yes.
As one period?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not a timed period.
Yeah.
It's strictly a possession-based period.
Yeah. So it's essentially just like the college system.
Overtime number 1, you get the ball, we get the ball.
Yeah.
Now, are you flipping it? Second period, they start, the team that got the ball the first time has to defend? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that still remains the same. But for the postseason, what I'm doing is basically adding the XFL shootout format.
Okay.
So essentially, it's basically just like a 2-point conversion play where if you score the 2-point conversion, you get a point.
Okay.
And if you don't, then you don't get a point. And that will go on for at least 5 rounds.
Okay.
But if you need more, then you can certainly add more until whoever wins.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a soccer. I mean, the XFL kind of designed it to be kind of like a...
It's like a PK.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, actually. I was not familiar with that. I watched a little bit of that XFL, a year or so ago, but I not enough to know that that's what they were doing from an overtime standpoint.
I mean, to be honest, I don't even think they actually had an overtime.
Did they not? You just knew that.
I just knew the rules because I just happened to find it on YouTube.
There you go. Oh man, always digging deeper than everybody else. That's why we love it.
Yep, I try to. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is the kickoff.
Okay. I before we do that, I just want to get your opinion on the current state of the kickoff in the NFL. What are you a fan of it? Do you not like it?
It sucks.
Okay, so he's coming.
Sucks.
I tend to agree with you. I think it's kind of a wasted play.
It really is.
The way we've set it up now, it's like the stadium's packed. They're pumping the music. The team huddles and the kicker. They're kind of all swelling to go kick off, and then 9 out of 10 times it's just
like a touchback.
Blow the whistle, touchback, and we should have just started at the 25 anyways.
Yeah. So essentially, what I'm doing is we're bringing the XFL format again.
Okay. So what is that?
Yeah. It's essentially you have the kicker lining up at the 30 instead of the 40, so they're a lot further back.
Yep.
And then you have 10 players from each team. You got the 10 gunners and then the 10 defenders.
Yeah.
The 10 gunners are going to be at the receiving team's 35-yard line.
Yep.
With the 10 defenders being at the 30.
Yep.
And then you have to have the one returner being lined up anywhere
at the goal line. Yeah.
Not necessarily at the goal line, just anywhere inside the 20.
Yep.
And then both the gunners and the defenders cannot move until either A, the ball hits the ground, or B, the returner catches it.
Oh, I actually like that. I don't know if I ever saw that.
That was in the XFL.
Oh, that is pretty cool because it makes the play relevant.
It actually does make the play relevant.
And it eliminates that freight train guy, coming down and
just
decapitating the returner.
Just knocking the hell out of him.
Yeah, I don't know why I never picked up on that again. Maybe I just didn't watch enough games to kind of know what was going on, but it keeps it interesting.
It really does.
And it eliminates
I had my doubts at first.
Yeah.
When I first heard about it, I'm like,
now, let me ask you this. In your system and in the XFL system, if they're the same, or maybe yours diverts a little bit here, can they fair catch it?
No, they cannot fair catch it.
They cannot fair catch it. Okay, so if they catch it inside between basically the 30 and the goal line, they have to return it.
Yes.
Okay. But they can kneel it presumably in the end zone.
No, you cannot kneel in the end zone. You have to return it.
You have to go, period.
You have to go.
So there's no touchback.
No touchback. Nothing.
Oh, okay. All right. Very
Unless you kick it out of the end zone. Then it's a touchback.
And that goes to the 20 or the 25?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You know what, Matt? That's a way to make it interesting.
I mean, it really is.
There's no otherwise, as it stands today, I get punts and punt returns and all that. Otherwise, you just eliminate the kickoff because what's it? It serves no purpose today. I mean, other than giving the team the option to do an onside kick late in a game.
Yeah. And you still do it.
Yeah.
And teams still have that option.
In your rules.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the only to me, that's the only real value of the kickoff. Nowadays, the kickers are so good at just booting it out of the end zone. Like I said, I don't know what the statistic is in terms of last year, how many kicks were actually brought out, because there's two sides to the statistic. It's how many kicks were brought out in total, because I can't imagine that number is really high, and then how many kicks of those that were brought out actually made it past the 25-yard line, meaning they were actually a good decision and added value. I don't know the numbers. I'd be curious to dig into it. I just can't imagine it's a ton.
Yeah, I don't think it would be either.
Yeah. So your format would be exciting, and I think would create a little bit more drama around that play.
Exactly. So kind of actually building off the kickoff.
Yeah.
Now I actually want to implement the no yards rule from the CFL.
Okay.
Now, for those who are a fan of the CFL, please correct me in the comments.
CFL being Canadian Football League.
Yeah. But for those who aren't, I'm just gonna give like a brief explanation. So essentially, there's no fair catch in the CFL.
Okay.
With the no yards rule, the punt or kickoff team basically has to give at least a 5-yard zone around the opposing receiver until either A, the ball has hit the ground, or B, they have caught the ball.
Okay. So no timing up those truck stick plays, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like it. I mean, again, if you're going to take the fair catch away, which I'm okay with, you got to give the guy the chance to catch it.
Yeah.
And then the play goes on.
Yeah.
Now
here is the kicker. For penalties, if the ball hits the ground, it's only a 5-yard penalty.
Okay.
But if the ball has not hit the ground yet, it's still in the air, it's a 15-yard penalty if they violate that.
If they violate it. Okay. And that's the coverage team essentially breaching that 5-yard zone.
Yes.
The only challenge I see there, Matt, is, when you're going full speed and running and this, that, and the other, how consistent can the referees be on what is 5 yards, what's not? Is it 4? Is it 3 yards? Is it 4? Is it 5? I mean, that could be a little bit tough, but I like the spirit of the rule.
Yeah. And kind of building off of it, actually, there's the other side. So essentially, any unhandled ball from a place kick or punt may be legally recovered by the kicker or any player behind the kicker at the time of the kick, so long as the ball travels at least 10 yards.
Okay. So it's live.
It's live.
So let's say that returner isn't able to make a great play on the ball.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this. So let's say, I know this is an extreme scenario, but let's say that they were, you had like a halfback or a scat back that ran kind of a, reverse style play around the back of the kicker.
Yeah.
And the kicker intentionally only booted it 15 or 20 yards. He could that scat back, being that he was behind the kicker, could in theory just go catch that ball.
Yeah.
And recover it.
Yep.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And believe it or not, there actually was a play in the CFL where the Montreal Alouettes actually did that exactly.
Did they really?
Yes, they actually did. I'll put the link to the play in the description below. So
I'd like to see that. That's pretty cool. Maybe I should
it was like a fake field goal. They had 2 players kind of running around the side.
Yeah.
And one of them just happens to catch the ball.
Wow. That's pretty neat. I mean, maybe I should be a special teams coordinator in the CFL or something. I mean, that's where my mind went at first. I'm like, you could create with some pretty unique.
Yeah. I mean, it really adds a lot more excitement to the game.
Yeah. I like it. I think that's, and again, punt returns and kick returns have always historically been exciting. I think we're seeing them in the NFL get a little bit watered down for safety, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So why not? Why not change it to something that keeps the excitement while also
helping to improve safety?
Yeah, prioritizes safety. I love it.
Yeah. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is another XFL rule that I actually enjoyed.
Well, it sounds like the XFL is making some headways here.
I mean, I'm just saying, the XFL, they had good quality football.
Yeah.
Along with a whole bunch of rules that I think made the game a lot more interesting.
All right,
so essentially, any team is now allowed to throw a forward pass twice on any given play as long as the ball does not pass the original line of scrimmage before the second pass.
Okay. So you could have a shotgun snap.
Yep.
Throw it out to the receiver.
Yeah.
Or a motion back or something like that.
While they're in motion.
While they're in motion behind the line.
Yeah.
And you could have somebody on the opposite side running a corner or a drag across the field post. Yeah. And, hey. I don't know if the NFL would go for it because they're, tradition and things like that. I mean, you're going to get some pretty funky plays, but from an entertainment standpoint, I think it'd be great.
Yeah. Now, taking a rule from the AAF, the league before the XFL, the new XFL, there was a rule saying that you couldn't have more than 5 or 6 defenders rushing the passer.
Okay.
So I've kind of added that, but with an exception. And we'll talk about that exception later. But
okay, so you're saying you cannot have more than 6 rushers.
Exactly.
Basically 4 down linemen, 3 backers, or 3 down, 3 back, or I shouldn't say 4 down.
Yeah.
4 down linemen, 2 backers,
Yeah.
3 backers, 3 front.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for safety reasons. But
Yeah.
now
You're going to make offense easier. But the league's already done that.
I mean, the league's kind of
the league's obviously sold out for offense.
yeah.
You know, they make it much easier to play offense than defense.
Yeah. Unfortunately so.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Now, this is where things will get very interesting. This is where things will start to get interesting.
they haven't been interesting yet.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, they are interesting, but not as interesting or as
Okay.
controversial as I
I
think.
was going to say, let's hear it. Let's hear it. What are we
The first
talking
one
about?
I want to really propose is basically having cards.
Okay.
So if you're a soccer fan or a rugby fan,
like this type of card.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially, whenever you commit a penalty, you get a card.
Okay.
And
Even for like a false start.
even for a false start.
Okay.
So essentially, you get 4.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is the blue card, which is a warning.
Yep.
The second one is the yellow card, in which you're sent off the field for the next 4 plays or the end of the current possession, whichever comes first, with a substitute.
Okay.
The black card is next, so basically it's kind of the same thing, but without a substitute. So the team has to play a man down.
What happens if it's the quarterback?
Then you kind of have to put it in.
You go maybe you go Wildcat or something.
Or yeah, you could do a wildcat.
They'd have to. Every team would have to have a Wildcat package.
Yeah. That would be
Better hope that running back doesn't fall start. Then you're really screwed.
yeah. And then the fourth card is basically the red card, where you're basically sent off the field for the rest of the game without a substitute for the next 8 plays or the end of the current quarter or overtime period, whichever comes first.
Now, I have to ask, because this is extreme, taking players off the field and not being allowed substitutes. I don't even know, Matt. I don't watch enough soccer or rugby to know. Is that what happens now? I mean, I know
Yeah, that's actually what happens now in soccer and rugby.
Okay, I was going to say, I know in hockey.
Especially rugby.
Hockey, guy goes in the box, they get the power play, whatever.
Yeah.
But,
It's essentially bringing the power play to the NFL.
okay. That's kind of what in my mind, that's where I was going. I'm like, This is basically the power play. I mean, you think if you get a defensive back that you're picking on, and he gets his second or third flag, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
If you don't have another defensive back, put a receiver on the field, they better run a pretty good zone or something.
Exactly.
I kind of like it. I mean, Matt, in my mind, the NFL, there's not a shot they're going to go for that, but it's cool. I mean, it would definitely add a different dynamic to the game. I wish the NFL tried out some of this stuff in preseason. I know that guys are trying to win their jobs and teams are getting people ready and yada, yada, yada. But I wish they would pick one new rule a year or something just to try it out.
Exactly.
Just to see how the fans respond to it, how it works in game.
Yeah.
I know they're never going to do it, but...
Oh, and they're never going to go for this.
Oh, you got one that's even more extreme.
Oh, my God. It's absolutely nuts.
right.
And even I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's no way the NFL's going to do this.
So where did this one, what inspired this next one? Is this another XFL thing?
This is actually baseball.
Okay, so wow, Matt, you're pulling it all in. Let's hear it. What do we got?
This will be the designated hitter rule.
Okay.
So essentially, the designated hitter is an extra defensive back that has to start the play at least 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
So basically, it's a 12-man on the field.
Wow. Defense only, though.
Defense only.
Interesting.
Now, the DH has to be in either a 3 or 4 point stance prior to the snap.
Mm-hmm.
They can only blitz the QB unless they pass and or hand off the ball to another player. And they basically can only be played on third downs, and only other defensive backs, i.e. safeties and cornerbacks, can be designated as the DH.
Okay. So let me get this straight. How can you use them every third down?
You can use them every third down if you want to.
Okay. And it has to be a defensive back on your roster.
Yep.
He has to start 15 yards, and he can't go and try and pick something off. If the QB's dropping back to pass, he's blitzing him. If he hands off the ball before he gets to the line, he's going after the back.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he's basically just a automatic blitzer every third down. Interesting. I mean,
now, so essentially no one's even allowed to block them until either A, they reach the original line of scrimmage.
Okay.
B, the QB leaves the pocket. C, the QB passes or hands off the ball to another player.
Okay.
And then, or 4, the quarterback fumbles the ball.
Interesting. Now, just to help the offensive players not commit a bunch of penalties, is this guy wearing is he wearing like a different signifier on his uniform?
You will have to wear like a red armband.
Okay. So they know that he's the gunner.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking in real time again, guys going downfield to block or the referee just trying to understand, wait a minute, where's this, who's the gunner, who's not? That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's Matt. And you thought of that one all on your own.
That was something I literally just came up all on my own for the most part.
That's pretty cool. I mean, Matt, it's a cool thought. And I love the idea of throwing an additional guy on the field, especially for those types of situations. Again, this is where I wish we had a good place to trial and error these things, to kind of to do a run through and see how it plays in real time. Because in concept, I think it could be fun. I'm sure all the traditionalists, if you will, are not going to like something like that. But again, I know it's a big business, but for us fans, it's entertainment. So
Now, so essentially, targeting fouls are basically still automatic ejections, i.e., red cards.
Red card. Yep.
Makes so sense. They're basic. I mean, most other penalties are just going to be following that card format, like I mentioned earlier, but that one's going to be the exception.
Okay.
So basically, defensive backs and receivers can basically make contact with each other within 10 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And any illegal contact is just a 5-yard penalty. It's no longer a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
Okay.
So a lot of NFL fans will like that rule.
Yeah, say so.
Coaching challenges. So basically, each coach basically gets one challenge per half, or they can have unlimited challenges if they keep winning them.
Okay.
So basically, if he loses a challenge, he no longer has the right to challenge anything within that half.
Yep.
But they can challenge anything, including uncalled penalties.
Uncalled penalties.
Yes.
Oh, I actually like that. I wish they would do that now.
Oh, I know.
Because there's some obvious crap that and I get it. The ref can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that you just watch and you're like, oh my goodness, it's blatant, face mask or pass interference, holding, etc. And they can be pivotal calls.
Exactly. So I figured giving the coach the right to challenge that would make the game a lot more interesting.
Yeah. I like that.
Now, the scoring system is where I would say things get a little bit, shall we say, controversial in my opinion.
Matt, you've said that on a number of occasions.
That's true.
So more controversy here. I like that. Yeah.
Now, basically, for conversions or points after touchdown, you can go for a 1-point kick convert from the 15-yard line.
Okay.
Or you can go for a 2-point conversion at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
Or a 3-point conversion at the 5.
Interesting. I like that as well. I think that's a cool rule.
Yep.
Again, it makes the game more exciting, in my opinion. You've got better chance of comeback. I mean, things like that. So now essentially a touchdown can be up to 9 points.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because the XFL did the same thing too. They basically eliminated the kick convert. Okay. And basically you either have to go from the 2, the 5, or the 10.
And it was 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like still keeping the option to kick.
Yeah.
If they want.
But I also make getting 3 points for a conversion a lot easier.
Yeah, that's true. And Matt, I think the league's going in that direction, not towards necessarily a 3-point, but man, there's a lot of guys that are, the analytics supposedly tell them that they should be going for 2, and they go for 2 a lot more.
Yeah.
Depending upon situational circumstance.
Yep. So for field goals, basically any field goal that's under 50 yards is still 3 points.
Okay.
But any field goal that's at least 50 yards long is 4 points.
Oh, wow.
Because, like you said before, the kickers have gotten so good,
you
might as well try to incentivize more kicking.
Yeah. And it changes the dynamic, too, around field goals. I mean, if you can get 4 points, instead of punting it back to the, trying to play the field position game, maybe it's worth taking a boot.
Exactly.
If you've got a strong leg kicker.
Yeah.
I like it.
Now, probably the most controversial thing I'm going to propose with regards to the scoring changes.
You keep saying that.
I know I keep saying controversial, and I keep saying it because for all the American football traditionalists out there, it is controversial.
I know. But you keep saying this is going to be the most controversial.
Well, I'm not just saying it's the most controversial. I think the DH rule is probably the most one.
It's definitely the most radical.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, I don't mean to cut you off. So in terms of scoring,
it will be the CFL Rouge, or a single, if you will.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
So basically, a Rouge was just 1 point awarded to a kicking or punting team if an opposing player either A, catches or recovers a punt or missed field goal in their end zone, but is prevented by Team A or the kicking/punting team from returning the ball out of the end zone.
Okay.
Or B, elects to drop to one knee while still in the end zone.
That would be a point for the kicking team.
Yes. Or elects to run with the ball from the end zone out of bounds rather than enter the field of play.
So basically, there's a point available on every punt.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Or there's also more ways you can score a Rouge. So you can also score a Rouge from a field goal attempt that's at least 50 yards or longer.
Okay.
That goes out of the end zone through the end line, not the sidelines.
Yeah.
So just and more reason to attempt long field goals. So that way you're not really ended up with nothing.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And then you could also have a punt that's at least 50 yards or longer that goes out of the end zone through the end line as well. That also counts as a Rouge.
Okay.
Or a kickoff that either A, goes right for the uprights.
Yeah.
Or B, lands in the end zone and bounces out of the end zone through the end line. Or just goes out the end zone on the full throughout the end line as well. So that also works.
Interesting. So really rewarding the strong leg kickers. And
Exactly.
punters. Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Now, a Rouge will not be awarded in the following situations. If a ball is downed in the end zone after being intercepted in the end zone.
Okay.
If a ball is fumbled outside of the end zone.
Yep.
Or if a ball hits one of the goalposts.
Mm-hmm.
Or the ball is basically kicked and then just goes out the sideline out the end zone.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Just to make it a little bit harder.
Yeah. You can't just be getting a point every time you boot it.
Yeah. So essentially that's basically all the rules that I really kind of wanted to cover. So
Matt, there's a lot to chew on there.
Yeah.
Have you sent that to Roger Goodell?
No.
I'd be very curious to hear his thoughts on some of that stuff. But there's a lot of cool things in there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, some really interesting things that would definitely change the dynamic of the game. But from an entertainment standpoint, I think, could be valuable.
Yeah. Now, granted, there actually are more rules in the notes, but I'm just trying to keep this episode short and sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're just about at half an hour, which I think is probably a good breaking point.
Yeah.
And then, this has been, like Matt said, kind of our third episode in this NFL, series.
Yep.
And we can pick up with some of the remainder, next time we jump in on this topic. So anything else before we bring it in for a landing, Matt?
Well, the next time we talk about football, it's going to be college.
College football. How exciting. We're almost there. Yep. Tailgate season, mascots, the whole bit. So stay tuned.
And trust me, I got some crazy stuff. Even more crazy.
More controversial. Maybe we can talk about some of the NIL stuff too. That could be interesting to kind of throw in there. But appreciate you guys hanging out. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you got questions, Matt's going to link that video of the CFL play, the kick play, and we'll catch you next time.